Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself this desert starter base. Although a little daunting at first, it's actually just a collection of a few different build styles with some leaves tacked on, and of course it has that nice warm vibe that you'd expect from the desert, including things like a grandfather clock, some enchanting, paintings, actual functionality in the build, and an infinite water source hidden in the basement if you ever need it. So without further ado, let's investigate how we'd go about this. Before we get really started, one thing. You can see right here, this is an old desert house I've done, and I want to specify something. You can see here, this looks pretty generic, and it doesn't really look like it could be part of a desert. As in, if you're to swap the blocks, it could fit in elsewhere. Let's try building with the desert itself in mind. So you can see over here, an old build of mine. This kind of structure, you can see all the geometric things and how it doesn't have those pointed roofs. We want to build closer to this instead of that. We want to avoid this and go more for this, if you get what I mean. We want to make sure that this has a distinctly desert vibe, as in, if you swap the blocks, it shouldn't work. Now, if we go over here, then, well, we have a not flat area. This is precisely what we want. Instead of trying to build on every flat area and having to level areas, let's try doing something a bit more experimental with this. But now, let's figure out our palette. Of course, you already saw the palette screen. Let's get out our sandstone, and then let's build some rectangles and squares on this terrain. But you can see, this is a bit low contrast, so for the sake of the video, I'm going to be using a higher contrast block. And then we can get a general idea. Place 3 of them, and it's completely acceptable if they intersect. In fact, I want that. Alright, you can see I have some squares here, and the idea is that these have an internal dividing wall, while this one's more of a general use area, and then these things here are going to be part of another wall, so that way we can incorporate this a bit more into the terrain. But anyways, well, we need to figure out what we're actually doing. Of course, I'm replacing some of the blocks for higher contrast because I don't have structure gel anymore. I'm waiting on that updating. But anyways, here's the idea. If we're building on a slope, of course, we're still going to have level floors in the house. So let's get out some jungle for this and make those. And right here, let's say this is probably a good floor level. We'll have a porch somewhere as a way to get up, things like that. Or you could potentially have a double layer house. Who knows? But remember, you have to stick to your decision. Because, you don't want to have random stairs in the middle of the house. Remember, height changes remove floor area you can use. Be careful about that. Right here could be a good height, 1 block higher could work as well, things like that. But let's just make some general floor areas. Maybe a balcony somewhere, this could be a tower, this is our general living space, and then we could have a back door here, and maybe set up some farming back here. Let's think of it like that. Alright, so we have a first floor here. We know where our second layer is going to be. It's just a little stair here. We're going to have a balcony here and a tower right here. Problem. What am I doing with the bottoms of these walls? I'll touch on this later. Well, we have an interesting palette choice. This is, of course, stripped birch log, and you're probably wondering, why do that? That's not sandstone. Well, let's look from afar. Pretend that's not birch logs. Pretend that's also sandy. It looks nice. It adds a little bit of a gradient to the build, and we want to encapsulate that. Anyways, on the corners, notice I alternate between smooth and cut, and then right here at the top, we have a little bit more going on. And we have teeth, yeah, that's the official name of them, these little up and downs, then we have some red sandstone here, and a little bit of a stair pattern going on. You might want to incorporate a bit more slabs. You can go into here and right here. We could smooth it out. It's up to you whether you want to do that like this. To me, this is probably a bit too smooth and bulky, but who knows? You might like it. But anyways, we also need to detail these walls a little bit more. We could use some more stairs and such, like this. Maybe this would help. We want to try things like that. And most importantly, let's get out our glass. And why? You're probably wanting to do that. No, don't do that. Let's use something a bit more unorthodox, like this. And now you can see it fits in a lot better. Fills in the window, while also making sure that it's not glass. And technically, if something goes wrong, alright. And not to mention, if there's an emergency, you can quickly run through, like, oh no, I forgot to light up my house. And you can just learn the definition of defenestration that way. But yeah, that's the idea. We wrap this around the top, except on the balcony side. You can try incorporating mud bricks to the build, make sure the ceiling is accessible, things like that. And then we're going to work on this interior section. We already have a general idea. The walls are predominantly smooth sandstone. If you want, you could further texture them by incorporating some oak into it, things like that. With a bit more work done, we can see a lot is getting done. Of course, the porch is being made, very incomplete area down here, but we're going to have a basement. And of course, it's under the floor, because most basements are subterranean. Then, you can see the second building here, and while it has a different roof, you can see it uses a lot of buttons, it could be a little bit expensive. And the fact that I'm definitely incorporating spruce into the palette. Not exactly the closest wood, especially if you're in a desert. Go find yourself the spruce tree here, but anyways, well, on the inside, we have more fence gates, and we also have these little awnings made of wool, things like that. And then we also placed down some leaves because it was just kind of flat. If your build looks too flat, typically including leaves can help a lot. Vines would be useful, but unfortunately vines spread. Yeah. Also, we have this little room here. Notice the windows are now made of trapdoors because security reasons. And we also have a roof design here, alternating between trapdoors and slabs. Very expensive, but very cool. And you could also include a little bit of sand in the room, like this. Make it look like something happened, a wall broke. It adds a little bit of story to the build. But anyways, we can start incorporating some actual utilities in here. By the way, notice this little arch. Include arches like that, that's very good. But we want the roof, we want a few basic utilities. Our bedroom is going to be in the tower up here. And I'm going to make a roof that's kind of styled by the one over there. Sorry, I don't have any zoom mods anymore, but anyways, turning right back. Yeah, we want to have a unique roof for each one of these. And of course, we're building on that not flat area, and it's working surprisingly well. Right here, you can see a lot more being worked on, and I also included a few exterior details, such as here, I included some glow lichen, more of the leaves, and also a little bit of a terracotta gradient going from gray, light gray to normal. That way, we can have this area decorated later. Also, these little cactuses, you can see they have some cactus flowers on them, and they have green terracotta and concrete. And then, let's go on the inside. Acacia door, by the way. We also have some oak logs and some birch buttons mixed in for extra detail. You could also use sandstone. Right here, a bunch of random utilities. If you're wondering where the light is coming from, it's under these carpets. If we were to get rid of some of them, glowstone hidden under, incorporate that. Grandfather clock right here. Some sand barging into this room with a few random decorations. You can pause to take a look. Of course, the ceiling trapdoors are there, a hidden loom, and well, it's certainly a place. You can pause to take a closer look at each of the decor choices. Of course, you don't have to copy them exactly. I don't really recommend it, but you should use them as inspiration. Leaves into the building, and also notice I incorporated some stripped logs into the floor itself. Along with that, we have an enchanting area filled with paintings and a bunch of other things. But notably, this is still level 30 because the sheer amount of bookshelves being used, and they're hidden in the corners as well. Grindstone right here, hidden barrel, so that way we have lapis storage right here, and then some basic stuff. Along with that, this door goes behind the painting for quicker movement through the base. Now, if we keep searching, this will go to the basement eventually. You can see here, they're going to go to roughly the same area. This will be our storage. And then if we go up, by the way, make sure to not have dark areas like this. You don't want mobs in there disrupting your sleep and causing weird noises. Well, paintings aren't really important. Then we have a little pattern on the ceiling, a dentist painting, dragon egg lamp, and then we can finally go up. Another generic bedroom. Notice the birch leaves are unaffected by biome tint, which means you could totally use those. By the way, quick tip, if we get out some cake, if we click this 6 times, then we will have some dirt in there. Looks nicer. And also this bed's pretty simple. Notice the walls are green concrete because on the outside, they're being used there. Hidden shroom lights as well. And notice the usage of stairs in order to make it have a little bit of an arc pattern like this, rather than just being completely straight. And then finally for the roof, some logs, and then we have stair, full block, and then right here we have stair, full block, stair. And we alternate between those to make a bit of a tower top piece. And finally, there's another ladder up here with some alternating not dark oak, normal oak stripped logs with hidden shroom lights for added lighting. Make sure to have that lighting. There's a reason why this clip is at night, so that way we can see does it work. Now for some extra things. Right here, make sure that if you're building on a slant like I am, and you have sand barging in, if possible, make it a bit more caved in, if you get what I mean, by adding maybe like a larger hill here. And also notice buttons, please use them, and campfires. We're going to incorporate more onto this later. But yeah, you can put them out with a shovel. Now, let us focus on decorating with the final details and then maybe some outdoor things, like some greenery. Then let's move on to the farms and then the basement, and we'll finally have a good looking base. For the top here, you can see a lot has been done. More leaves, some boxes, a little bit of an outdoor seating area. Notice the banners are hidden in the ground to give pillows, things like that. And then we have some boxes here, more leaves, and of course, we can connect these to other areas behind it if you built it on a ledge. And potentially in a future tutorial, I could decorate this area with some maybe farming areas for deserts, things like that. And then I also worried about the downstairs for now. You can see some mud bricks. Make sure to decorate this place a little bit more, whether it be basic leaves like this, you can embed them into the ground for extra detail, and things like that. So we have a mine entrance if you ever want to go mining here, and then we have mud bricks on the walls, things like that. Notably, there's an infinite water source in the floor, and they use bamboo mosaics. These are stairs and slabs on top, so they look like full blocks, but you can still open chests. So, hooray! You can replace these with the block you're storing. They're a placeholder block. And then finally, well, we have some basic utilities, more stuff, and then the gradient comes back when we go up here. And what do you know? We have a complete house. Now it's time to wrap up the final detail. And you can see here, I have a little bit of a terracotta gradient. This wall here is completely optional, but I think it looks cool, especially if you're going to connect multiple buildings. And then if you go at an angle, then you can skip a block and we can continue it from here. Something like this. And we keep going outwards. Make sure to shift one block at a time, continue our gradienting, maybe some glow lichen, things like that. And then finally, we'll have a complete build. Since there's nothing behind it for now, because, I could do that for a future tutorial, well, we'll have a nice flat area behind it, and we used up this rather unusable area. I mean, would you want to build on a ledge? Well, now we just did. Right here, you can see the wall is complete, and this wall serves several things. Even if you don't have any other builds to connect it to, now we have a means of connecting it to a flatter area. Say we use this uninhabitable slope with the house itself, you can see no back to it. Now we have this nice flatter area, and we have this wall to bridge the gap. And of course, this wall can be used not only for defensive reasons, but because it also looks cool. You could make it extend in several directions, wrap around things. Here, let's turn it today for this. But imagine this. We have this wall here, but we extend it. We make it go all around these dunes. We build a city up here, things like that. This little guy does a lot of work. Even if you don't plan on doing anything much with it, still, it's a pretty useful skill to have because it allows you to make those big areas. And of course, it's a little bit of cohesion for your place. If there's anything that makes a world feel less lived in, it's when you focus everything in one area. Like, you can see this whole giant flat area, there's nothing going on. Even if I have a few things going on and have some builds close together, it still feels empty, especially if it's all flat and such. You should try adding those paths and such. These walls, cactuses, things like that make your world feel very lived in. Let's encourage that. But regardless, it's the end of today's video in just a moment. We need to take that good old vibrant visuals look. Right here in vibrant visuals, you can see, well, the desert is a very yellowy biome, but still ends up working. And if you go on the inside, it can look really nice, of course, if I don't place glow lichen everywhere. So you can see a bunch of things in here, and how we have these little reflections, the shadows, things like that. It makes the build look really, really nice. And even if the desert lighting isn't perfect, well, one, it'll also show your errors, but also, it has a little bit of that warm vibe. Whether you like that or not is up to you. Perhaps this is a build better off without vibrant visuals. But regardless, it's a pretty place. And if you ever have a desert, well, hey, you can do something with it with this build here. Either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.